But first tonight, our top focus. Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke to the nation this evening and importantly has reset the contentious vaccine policy. As per the new policy announced by the Prime Minister, the centre will procure 75% of the vaccine doses. That's 25% more, earlier being procured by the state. Vaccines will now be free for all at all government hospitals for all age groups and all income groups. Private hospitals can buy the remaining 25% doses with a 150 rupee service charge, which is the cap on what they buy these vaccines for. The changes will be effective from the 21st of June. Now, those were the 5 big points, but those are politically contentious because remember, the opposition state governments have been asking the Prime Minister to reverse the vaccine policy. The BJP has been claiming it is these opposition state governments which were responsible for the original policy shift by the government. Now, all of this came in the backdrop of the Supreme Court just 5 days ago describing the pricing policy for vaccines as irrational and arbitrary. Either way, the Prime Minister in a half-hour-long speech today shifted the blame for the vaccine mess onto the states. Rahul Gandhi says, why are vaccines not free for all? Here is a report on just what all this means in the backdrop of a vaccine politics that is being played out.
कुल वैक्सीन उत्पादन का 75% हिस्सा भारत सरकार खुद ही खरीद कर राज्य सरकारों को मुफ्त देगी। यानी देश की किसी भी राज्य सरकार को वैक्सीन पर कुछ भी खर्च नहीं करना होगा।
India's vaccine policy undergoes a second change in just over a month.
मुफ्त वैक्सीन
The speech announcing centralized procurement of vaccine doses for government hospitals across the country was not just a policy declaration, but also a political statement. Prime Minister Narendra Modi sought to blame the opposition for the first tweak that allowed states to procure vaccine.
देश के नागरिक भी अनुशासन का पालन करते हुए अपनी बारी आने पर वैक्सीन लगवा रहे थे। इस बीच कई राज्य सरकारों ने फिर कहा कि वैक्सीन का काम डिसेंट्रलाइज किया जाए और राज्यों पर छोड़ दिया जाए।
He accused many critics of running a campaign for state procurement.
भांति-भांति के दबाव भी बनाए गए। देश के मीडिया के एक वर्ग ने इसे कैंपेन के रूप में भी चलाया। वैक्सीन का काम राज्यों पर छोड़ा जाए, जो इसकी वकालत कर रहे थे, उनके विचार भी बदलने लगे।
And finally, the Prime Minister reasoned the new change in policy was necessitated by the failure of states to buy the vaccines.
कि राज्यों के पास वैक्सीनेशन से जुड़ा जो 25% काम था, उसकी जिम्मेदारी भी भारत सरकार उठाएगी। ये व्यवस्था आने वाले 2 सप्ताह में लागू की जाएगी।
India witnessed
The opposition reaction was swift. Many instantly took to Twitter to question the PM's claims.
देश में इतने भी अमीर नहीं हैं जिनको 25% में खरीद के लगाना पड़े। मैक्सिमम ये होना चाहिए 10%। जो इनकम टैक्स करदाता है, मान लीजिए उनको भी लें तो समझ में आता है। बाकी देश के नागरिकों के लिए तो केंद्र सरकार को निःशुल्क उपलब्ध करानी चाहिए।
प्रधानमंत्री आज भी अपने मुंह मियां मिट्ठू बने रहे। सबको निःशुल्क टीकाकरण की कांग्रेस पार्टी और देशवासियों की मांग ना मानकर मोदी सरकार ने एक जघन्य अपराध किया है, जिससे लाखों भारतीयों को अपनी जान से हाथ धोना पड़ा।
The changes come days after the Supreme Court called the vaccine policy arbitrary and irrational. It had sought a roadmap on vaccine procurement and distribution from the centre within 2 weeks. Bureau Report, India Today.
So let's today raise the big questions that the Prime Minister's speech, in a sense, has put up before us. Did the centre change this policy once again under pressure? Who gets the credit this time? The Supreme Court that stepped in? The Modi government that has course corrected? Or the opposition that now claims that the Prime Minister has accepted its views? Has the Prime Minister's image taken a hit amidst all this constant flip-flops? And is it time to end the blame game? And should the opposition also now welcome the decision of the Prime Minister without caveats? These are some of the questions that we will raise. I'm joined by Syed Zafar Islam, the BJP's MP in the Rajya Sabha. Gaurav Ballabh is Congress's spokesperson. Priyanka Chaturvedi, Shiv Sena's Member of Parliament. Raj Chengappa, Group Editorial Director at India Today. And Manisha Priyam, Political Analyst, because we'll also look at the politics in a bit. But first, I want to ask the political parties, do they welcome this decision unreservedly or not of the Prime Minister? Why don't you first tell us, Priyanka Chaturvedi, because Maharashtra has the highest number of COVID cases. Do you welcome what the Prime Minister has said unreservedly?
Maharashtra also has the highest number of vaccinated people in the country. And I want to talk about Maharashtra's success story from the mouth of what Supreme Court and Supreme Court statements have been with regards to oxygen, whether it's regards to vaccination, whether it's regard to COVID treatment. So that is how I would want to talk about Maharashtra. And as far as, welcoming it, I think every person who has common sense in India would welcome this simply because what the central government did in the month of April was absolutely arbitrary, and it was going against the entire Indian Epidemic Act, the Disaster Management Act, and the Essential Commodities Act, which has been put in place ever since COVID's first case was reported in India, which gave overriding powers to the central government despite health being a state subject. For them to wash their hands off the entire vaccination process was, I think, something that even the Supreme Court has spoken about. So I wouldn't want to get into that. I think I would like to thank the Supreme Court. I would like to thank every Indian who has some common sense, who questioned the government and its vaccination policy, and which actually put the central government on a back foot to understand that what they were doing was a vaccine policy disaster, rather than taking the country towards a vaccinated population, a safe population, a healthy population.
Can I just add one more point to what you've said? Because the Prime Minister today, Priyanka Chaturvedi, seemed to suggest that the change in the vaccine policy on the 1st of May, which you are claiming in April was decided upon and led to the confusion, was done because this was what state governments wanted. And there are various BJP leaders who claim Maharashtra was among the states that Uddhav Thackeray's government also wanted a greater say in vaccine procurement and distribution. So let's get that clear. How do you reason out what the Prime Minister is saying, that the shift has taken place because states wanted it?
I can't reason with someone who's lying. I'm sorry. I would want the media to produce one such letter which stated the Maharashtra government saying that we are not asking the centre for vaccines. What we are asking the centre to do is wash its hands off the entire vaccination process. Please let me remind you, Rajdeep, and through your channel, that Maharashtra government and every state government was asked to follow protocols set by ICMR and Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, which all the state governments did. All the vaccination, ventilators, all the protocols were set by the central government. Maharashtra government only said two things: that we have a population, half of our population is between 18 to 44, allow us to bring them in that ambit. Second, we are running a vaccination campaign which is leading the country in its vaccination drive. So please give us more vaccines, because at that point in time, we were vaccinating over 1 million people a day. That was our fair demand.
So you wanted the vaccination program to include the 18 to 44 group, but you did not want the procurement to stop by the centre. Am I correct? You still wanted the procurement to be done by the centre.
Procurement should have come from the centre. The decentralization, the procurement to the states should have been more transparent and should have involved the state health ministers when you were, giving away these vaccines to various states. You should have brought them into it so that they could be able, they could tell you what their state requirements were. Now, for example, Maharashtra was seeing a high caseload. Maybe Karnataka wasn't seeing a high caseload. Maybe Gujarat wasn't seeing a caseload like that. We have a population of 12 crore. And we were given equal number of vaccines as what Gujarat government was given with a 6 crore population. So that is where we said bring in transparency, understand priority, and allow the health ministers also to have a stake in something that is going to come to their states.
Okay.
Nobody, I think no state government said, please decentralize it, we will procure vaccines on our own, we will go float global tenders, we will buy it
No,
on our own, we will sell it on our own.
I do have
That's
a letter. 1 minute. I do have a letter that Mamata Banerjee has written on February 24th, for example, asking for state governments to be allowed to procure vaccines. Now, the BJP is claiming that there were also statements made by opposition governments, but I'll come to those one by one in a moment. Clearly, you are welcoming the policy and saying that the Supreme Court intervention had a large role also to play with what happened. Let's therefore come to you, Zafar Islam, because in his speech, the Prime Minister never mentioned the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, which 5 days ago said that the existing central policy on vaccines was arbitrary and irrational. Now, are we to give the Supreme Court the credit that 5 days later the Prime Minister, Eureka, now says, I'm changing the policy, while blaming the state governments for the original policy shift in the first place?
Well, Rajdeep, let me very candidly tell you that we are just restoring the policy which we had since inception, which was disrupted by various state opposition, state run by the opposition parties. You showed one letter. There are 11 such letters which has been written to the central government, asking them to give them flexibility to procure. For instance, let me give you one example. Mr. Rahul Gandhi on 20th of May advocated that more flex should be given to the states.
No, I am looking for a statement, sir, with due regard. Since you mentioned Rahul Gandhi, I am looking... Sir, just a minute. Sir, just a minute. I am looking for a statement from Rahul Gandhi where he has clearly said procurement should be done by the state governments. If you can give me that statement, I'll be very happy to expose his double standards. Where is that statement?
Of course, I will send it across to you.
Please send it to me.
Of course, I will send it across to you. Yes, I will do that next program. You can invite me and I can be on your program, which I can show you. Also, Mr. Kejriwal made the announcement that within 3 months we can vaccinate the people. On what basis? If the procurement is done by the central government and it is a centralized policy where all the states are being given the vaccine by the central government, because it was a centralized distribution mechanism which was put in place. But they all question the central government, and given we have a cooperative federalism, everyone has some aspiration. Every state was questioning the central government that they needed flexibility and vaccination. They can procure the vaccine and vaccinate their people ahead of other states. So
you are telling me a strongman supreme leader like Narendra Modi changed the vaccine policy that you claim was going very well in April under pressure from the state governments? Is that what you're claiming?
No. When you have the state governments have aspirations, they are demanding something where they feel that they can do better job than other states. One state feels that they can do better job than the rest. Then that flexibility should be given, and that has been given. When all of them collectively
So why did he change now? So why has the Prime Minister changed his view today? What changed now?
Absolutely. Let me. All the states now collectively making a request to the central government that please restore the policy you had. Let it be centralized policy and the distribution mechanism what you had put in place in the beginning itself. So it is they who asked for it. It is they who, when they failed, requested to restore it. So that's what it has been done.
It has nothing to do with the Supreme Court order. I want it clear. It has nothing to do with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, we want to know where the 35,000 crore budgeted for vaccines is going. It has nothing to do with any of that.
Absolutely. What is irrational in the policy? It is a policy which has all the rationals. The only thing that Supreme Court may or may not have seen all those letters or requests or the statement which has come from the opposition parties. And which they are looking for a flexibility which the central government has provided to them.
Sir, I will be very grateful if you can send me all those letters. As I said,
Absolutely.
I have only one letter on record, February 24th. No other letter, sir. Letter using the word procurement. I want a letter using the word procurement. The country now needs transparency. Enough of this blame game. So let's
come to 11 all put together.
Okay, you're claiming 11 letters. And you are saying Rahul Gandhi has used it? Has Rahul Gandhi used the word? Has Manmohan Singh used the word?
Yes, he asked for flexibility in sourcing vaccine, in procurement of vaccine.
Sir, flexibility
on what basis you can say?
Okay. Let me, Gaurav Ballabh.
No, what flexibility you require for
Okay, Gaurav Ballabh, respond to what you're hearing from the
vaccination?
BJP leader. The BJP is saying, and the Prime Minister reiterated it today, that what he has done is simply restore what was the case before May 1st. It was opposition leaders, including, according to the BJP, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, who were putting pressure, make the policy more flexible. The Prime Minister made it more flexible. The state governments failed. You have Punjab, a Congress-ruled government, which was actually misusing the policy allegedly to sell vaccines meant for the state quota to private hospitals. Today, you've thrown your hands up. The Prime Minister has responded. Will you welcome the Prime Minister's shift or not?
Rajdeep, I will start my statement with a quote. "Bahut der kar di huzur aate aate," and I will give you the reason for that. Government of India missed the bus as far as booking of vaccines is concerned, approving manufacturers is concerned, procurement of the vaccines is concerned, starting vaccination drive is concerned. We were the last as far as the emerging nations are concerned. I'm not comparing the developed nations. Now better sense had prevailed that at least with regard to centralized vaccination procurement. But this mistake had its own price. And what is the price, Rajdeep? You know that out of 5 worst affected nations in the world, we were the least as far as the population which fully vaccinated is concerned. America had vaccinated 41.3% population, UK 40%,
with smaller
Brazil
populations,
11%,
I might add.
And
Gaurav Ballabh, let's be fair. Let's be fair with much smaller populations.
Rajdeep, I'm coming to China also. Wait, na. India 3.23%. China per day is administering a dose, 2 crore doses per day. And India's last 7-day average is 25 lakh. And you know what is the reason? The dairy in procurement, dairy in selection of the manufacturers, delay in the booking of vaccination, because at that time when other countries of the world were booking vaccination, we were seeing thali and coming on television, Corona ko hara diya, Corona ko hara diya. Now I have 2 very specific questions to the gentleman from the BJP. Number 1. Is the vaccination drive okay before 30th of April? If yes, then why average vaccination before 16 January to 30th April is lower than the last 7 days vaccination? I have a very simple question. Number 2, if you think, if the gentleman sitting in your show is saying that because of opposition we had done this thing, why you had not written this while filing an affidavit before Supreme Court that states are demanding direct procurement? On which page you had written? I want to know from you, from the gentleman who is sitting in your show. I want to know from him that in April 19 there was a press release by Government of India in the change of the vaccination policy. Why in that press release it was not mentioned that this is because of the opposition state chief ministers we were changing? I want specific answers to these 3 questions.
Okay, the second and third really deserve an answer. Suddenly, let's be honest, Syed Zafar Islam, you could have mentioned this in the affidavit before the Supreme Court that this was all being done under state pressure. You did not. Let's be very clear. Today, the Prime Minister has politically nicely shifted the entire responsibility onto the opposition. He's the Prime Minister. He's the man in charge. The buck stops with him.
Rajdeep,
He's the most powerful Prime Minister, according to the BJP, the country has had.
You have any doubt?
No, I'm asking. No, if he's the most powerful Prime Minister,
indeed, he is the most powerful.
then why does he need to do these flip-flops at all?
I ask you, you have any doubt? The country has none. The countrymen has none. They all know that he's the most powerful Prime Minister. Let me also assure you, Rajdeep, he's the most sensitive and sincere Prime Minister who always look after this interest and safeguard the interests of people of this great country. Let me also tell you, what are you holding in your hand? I mean, do you want that in affidavit, the Government of India will put the state in the dock? I mean, what are you talking about? There has to be some sense of responsibility that you are expecting the Government of India to put the blame on.
But that's what he's done today. That's what he's done today.
No, he's not done. He is not done.
In his speech, at least on 3 separate occasions, he blamed the state governments.
It's not blaming. It's not blaming. It's just that the aspiration and the demand and the flexibility to what they desired had been provided to them. However, when they collectively failed and collectively requested, we have just restored the process which was disrupted by their request.
Okay,
That's all. I mean, you want
Okay, you're
it's not a banana
saying you
republic
could-
where you will
okay.
go to the Supreme Court and criticize about the state government.
Okay.
It's not done.
Okay, you made your point.
Rajdeep.
You made your point. Gaurav Ballabh, I want to ask you the one question. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
the state governments themselves also have some responsibility or not? I mean, look at
Yes,
the way
yes,
Punjab, look at the way Punjab, for example, has handled your vaccine procurement. It's been among the lowest in terms of vaccinating people, whether it's health workers or whether it's people in the 45 age group. Rahul Gandhi should be making his own states into model states. That you are not able to do.
राजदीप विदाउट सप्लाई कोई पानी की वैक्सीन थोड़ी लगवानी है. Supply is under the
अरे,
control
केस
of the
वाले
government of
के
Sir,
रेट
India.
in percentage term, one minute, Syed Zafar.
Don't interrupt.
No, sir.
Don't interrupt.
Gaurav Ballabh, even in percentage term, Punjab is among the lowest in the country. Someone must take
Rajdeep,
responsibility.
the supply chain is disrupted. You are not supplying. When the central government is not supplying the adequate number of vaccine, how the vaccination drive is going to kick-start? That is the reason state governments were saying that government is not able to supply the appropriate number of vaccines. That is the reason they were questioning the government of India that your supply chain is altogether disrupted. That is
Rajdeep, 10 seconds.
that is what Prime Minister was trying to quote. And he is telling that Prime Minister can't say or we can't write in affidavit. प्रधानमंत्री टीवी पर आके बोल सकते हैं, एफिडेविट में नहीं लिख सकते. प्रेस रिलीज होती. Please, no interference, no interference. In April, when you had changed the entire vaccine strategy, at that time, why you had not written that this is because of the state government? And I challenge you in today's show that show me any state government's letter, show me any chief minister's letter which is asking that we want to have our own procurement. We don't want you to procure. In fact, Congress led chief
Gaurav
minister for saying
Ballabh, I have already
you
asked
procure
Syed Zafar. Just a minute, sir. Syed Zafar, I'll let you respond. I really think that the country needs to, if the Prime Minister has 11 letters, as you have said, written by state chief ministers saying, give us the right to procure vaccines, please put them before the nation. Otherwise, you are being unfair to the people of this country. But quick comments from Raj Chengapp. No, just a minute, sir. We have two other guests who just...
10 seconds.
No, sir. I'll come back to you, sir. We've got a lot of time.
Make a point. Otherwise, every time it becomes Congress, BJP, and we don't get to say
That's
anything.
right.
This
Yes.
is not how it works.
Ma'am, I will come to you, Priyanka, in a moment. Trust me.
Us versus them, yeah.
No, it's not us versus them. Let me bring in Raj Chengappa and Manisha who are listening patiently to just understand where you stand because they are not politically aligned. And Raj Chengappa, you've been tracking the vaccine policy in a cover story. You tell us, was today the Prime Minister simply having to do out of compulsion given the low numbers of vaccinations through the month of May? And is the real problem centre versus state or the fact that we don't even have enough vaccines procured? We don't have enough firm orders. Mr. Chengappa.
Sorry, Rajdeep, there's been a background hum. Can you just repeat the question?
My simple question to you, centre versus state seems to have been the narrative even in the Prime Minister's speech. Is that the real story why the Prime Minister had to today pull back and reset the vaccine policy? Or is the real crisis the fact that we don't have enough vaccines and enough vaccine orders firmly in place?
Rajdeep, I think it's a bit of both. This course correction, rollback, whatever you'd like to call it, was absolutely necessary. And clearly the centre had erred, even if states had pressured, they should not have yielded to them because the policy that they had first enunciated was according to the World Health Organization protocols, that you first do the vulnerable people, the frontline workers, then the elders, and then you come down to the age groups as you get more and more vaccines into it. Why did the centre jump the gun in late April and declare that states should pick up the 18 to 44 age group is a mystery. The explanations just don't fit at all. What has been done now is absolutely right, because even the Supreme Court questioned it. How can you say that for above 44, you would give the vaccines free, and below that, the state should pay? How could you have a differential pricing? I mean, this whole thing had descended into a complete detrimental policy. I mean, India was losing. Politics was winning. I think we need to end this vaccine politics that is there. The decision today was needed. Clearly the center had made that decision. It had to roll it back. And now we need to learn and look ahead at what is there. When you come to the question of whether we have enough vaccines, yes, that is a huge, humongous task we have. We have to now vaccinate 800 million people with 2 doses. That's 1.6 billion doses you would require by December if you had to meet the target. Our entire endeavor should be to ensure that we get it. Now, if you look at the Prime Minister's speech, he talked of Atmanirbhar Bharat and how important it was. It was a great achievement that we did have an Indian vaccine that came out. There's no doubt about that. But to repeat that we should continue with Atmanirbhar Bharat may be wrong, because today what we require is vaccines at any cost wherever you can get them. If it is Indian made, great. But the first priority has to be to save lives. I think that's the most important thing.
Okay. Can I bring in Manisha Priyam on the issue of what the Prime Minister's optics? Here's the Prime Minister, almost 2 months after COVID 2.0 has hit the country, coming before the nation. The last time he was addressing the nation in this manner was in the month of April. Lots of people have died in this period. There's been a lot of tragedy. The Prime Minister now comes and says, look, you know, I'm reversing vaccine policy. Do you believe it is too little, too late, as some are suggesting? Or at the end of the day, the Prime Minister's equity is such that he can now claim, look, I'm going to get things going. I was being blocked by the states. Give me a chance again.
Rajdeep, yes, indeed, the second round of the hit that the people in India, especially to the north of the Vindhyas, in states like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, even Delhi, the kind of hit that people have taken, we have taken, is unimaginable agony. And the Prime Minister, he owes his route to power in the center through the city of Varanasi. And I can tell you that I have been speaking to people who are really loyalists, such firm admirers of the Prime Minister, that even today in death, disaster and agony, they do not talk of the Prime Minister by name, but they say they feel they have been let down. It's not just the vaccines, the agony that people have gone through in these parts of the country. You don't think today's speech softens the blow in any way? No. I mean, last night I have been interviewing agricultural labor in Gorakhpur, in Sajanwa, Gorakhpur rural, and people have said 10 to 20 vaccinations per day, whereas we need lakhs. Even rural people are saying that by the time one round of Covishield will happen, it will take us over a year. Madam, tab tak ye bimari koi aur swaroop le lega. So to the extent that the Prime Minister came and spoke to the people of India and called this Adrishya Roop Wala, this disease, he referred to it as Adrishya Roop Wala, and then he went on to refer to the Chechak vaccination plan, and he also said logon ko saalon tak intezar karna pada. And last night I interviewed people and they said exactly the same thing. And they said, इस बीमारी को अगर आप हमको रोक ही नहीं पाएंगे, तो जितना आप कर भी लेते हैं, वो भी पानी हो जाएगा. Okay, so remember, above and below the optics, there is suffering, there is disease that is not coming out in the open, and people are talking about the fact that they are not covered enough. The quantum is simply not enough. So simply pushing the onus onto the states is not going to be enough. What is it that we need? How much do we need?
Can I just stop you for a moment on that?
Yes, please.
Let me just stop you, because I want to come back to the politicians on the issue of the actual vaccine policy. I just want to play what the Prime Minister said on August 15th last year. Because look, there have been a lot of flip-flops, there's a lot of blame game. But this all on August 15th, Independence Day last year, this is what the Prime Minister said about India's vaccine policy.
भारत में एक नहीं, दो नहीं, तीन वैक्सीन उसके टेस्टिंग के अलग अलग चरण में है. वैज्ञानिकों से जब हरी झंडी मिल जाएगी, बड़े पैमाने पर प्रोडक्शन होगा और उसकी तैयारियां भी पूरी तरह रेडी हैं और तेजी से प्रोडक्शन के साथ वैक्सीन हर भारतीय तक कम से कम समय में कैसे पहुंचे, उसका खाका भी तैयार है, उसका रूपरेखा भी तैयार है.
Let's go back to the politicians. You, Zafar Islam first, then I'll come to you, Priyanka. Did the Prime Minister over-promise and under-deliver.
Leave the debate.
No, ma'am, just a minute. Ma'am, just a minute. Just a minute.
All you've been doing is Zafar Islam versus Gaurav Vallabh.
No, I'm not going to Gaurav. I'm coming to you, ma'am. Just let him respond to what the Prime Minister said. Has the Prime Minister over-promised and under-delivered? Zafar Islam.
Not at all. Not at all. It's a great achievement to procure, to source or to produce 216 crore vaccine in less than 4 or 5 months. What the production schedule suggests.
So you don't
in fact,
see
I just saw the
okay, so you're saying he's not over-promised and under-delivered. Now let Priyanka Chaturvedi respond. Priyanka Chaturvedi, for the opposition, indeed for state governments like yours, which have had, as you've said, Maharashtra has suffered the most in terms of COVID deaths, in terms of COVID cases. The scale of the problem. The Prime Minister started today's speech by saying this is a once-in-a-century pandemic. There are no easy solutions out there. Let's be very clear. In rural Maharashtra also, it's not as if the vaccination program has taken off across the districts. There have been impediments. Are you willing to accept that this is not about a political blame game anymore?
Firstly, when you make your entire vaccination policy around politics, then it becomes about politics. And we need to discuss it from that political perspective as well. Just a few things that I want to put in perspective. The timeline behind these entire decisions. Let's say the states started putting pressure in the month of April 2021.
Yes.
But before that, what was happening in this country? Yes, we were a manufacturing nation, but not a single rupee was spent by the central government in aiding these research coming from both Covaxin or whether it was the other indigenous vaccines that were being planned, or for that matter, Covishield. Covishield is part of the Oxford Research Group. Not a single rupee was spent. In the month of January, you place a order of 1.6 crore vaccines with your local manufacturers. Smaller countries like Bangladesh, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, when they order vaccines through SII, they ensure that the vaccination that they've ordered covers their entire population twice over. It covers their entire population twice over, which is 2 doses, right, when they place an order. But India has placed an order of 1.6 crores. Then you have the entire statements coming, and then you start the Vaccine Maitri initiative. You roll out in January 16th, and you also start simultaneously, you start the Vaccine Maitri initiative. Then you have the union budget. You have a finance minister standing up and taking pride in the fact that she has allocated 35,000 crores for vaccination, only for COVID-19 vaccines. Or agar wo bhi kam pada, so we will add more money to it so that every Indian is covered in the vaccine rollout. Excellent initiative. They all get patted on their back. Our finance minister gets patted on her back, and our external affairs minister gets patted on his back, and health minister is feeling great about himself because we were in the end game of COVID, right? Then the BJP executive committee meeting happens, and Pradhan Mantri Modi is called as someone who's a Vishwaguru, who's not just also shown India's place in the world, but has also managed to end COVID. That's where we stand in the month of February, mid-March.
So
then
much
that's when
time
the
you are
peak
giving
starts
to her.
happening.
No, she must be
One
allowed.
second, allow me to speak.
Relax, sir,
Allow me to
relax. We
speak.
have got time. Let her finish.
Then in March, you have the entire union cabinet
you have
busy.
time for everyone, but you
Oh,
interrupt
please
so
keep
much
quiet. Just because there's truth coming out, you seem to have a problem. Mid-March onwards, our Prime Minister and the entire cabinet is busy electioneering. Busy electioneering. All the states are alerting the Prime Minister that we need help because there is a second wave hitting us. But our Prime Minister is busy and our union ministers are missing in action. What happens in April when states start putting pressure that we need vaccines, we need oxygen, we need ventilators? What does the Prime Minister do? I mean, not the Prime Minister, whoever's done this decision, they wash their hands of the entire process. करो जो करना है, क्योंकि तुमने मांगा था, किसने मांगा था?
Okay, you've in a sense, you've in a sense given a very powerful.
आपको जितनी वैक्सीन चाहिए आप ले लो.
You've given a very powerful calendar.
What happened?
You've given a very powerful calendar of events that I think Zafar needs to respond to. But before that, Zafar, I want to play what the Prime Minister said in the month of January, because I think whatever's happened today, the lead up started between January and March of missed opportunities. Listen to this.
दुनिया के कई नामी एक्सपर्ट्स और बड़ी बड़ी संस्थाओं ने क्या क्या कहा था। भविष्यवाणी की गई थी कि पूरी दुनिया में कोरोना से सबसे प्रभावित देश भारत होगा। कहा गया कि भारत में कोरोना संक्रमण की सुनामी आएगी। किसी ने 700-800 मिलियन भारतीयों को कोरोना होने की बात कही तो किसी ने 2 मिलियन से ज्यादा लोगों की मृत्यु का अंदेशा जताया था। भारत ने खुद पर निराशा को हावी नहीं होने दिया।
See, the Prime Minister was always talking up, saying that we were fully in control. Today, he says it's the worst ever pandemic, gives reasons for it. You want to respond to that calendar of events that Priyanka Chaturvedi gave Zafar Islam?
I will respond, Rajdeep, but let me tell you one thing, and which is a fact which everyone should know, and all the viewers should know, that when others are speaking, with the exception of BJP, you listen to them like a student. And but when we speak, when I speak or any BJP person speak, you interrupt, keep on interrupting like a disruptive force.
Sir, just 2 minutes ago, Priyanka was attacking me. Why are you doing this?
No,
let's respect each other.
Unfair. Yeah, I respect. I didn't interrupt her. I requested you to give me time.
I'm giving you the time. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So all I'm trying to tell you that even now, Gaurav Bhalla was talking about impact of pandemic in every other state. He should actually see all the states being managed by the Congress party. For instance, just asking what was the case fatality rate in Punjab, highest in the country, and then the vaccine which has been provided to them.
So you don't want to respond to Priyanka Chaturvedi's calendar?
No,
you don't want to respond to what was happening between December, January, February, March, April?
No, I'm responding to that also, but it is important for everyone to know that it is Punjab who has been provided so much vaccine. What they are doing, they are selling in black market.
Sir, I have already raised that issue. I have already raised that issue. You respond to Priyanka Chaturvedi's calendar of events.
No, as far as the vaccine policy is concerned, and people are saying that we have.
Sir, taking credit in January, no, sir, straight. Taking credit in the month of January, not placing firm orders, not investing enough, electioneering in March, April. For God's sake, respond to that.
As I said earlier, that you cannot patiently listen. You will interrupt.
No, because you're not answering my question.
You will not let me. No, you will not let me complete. You, like a student, will listen to everyone but the BJP spokesman. That's your problem. Let me respond to that. See, we have never taken credit. We have always sensitized the nation, and when Prime Minister speaks, it is not for any particular party as a representative of any particular political party, but as a Prime Minister of this great country. You must remember. And when he speaks for the country, not for the party or for himself. And you must honor every word he speaks because it is his word as a Prime Minister is important, and which is being seen by the rest of the world how it is.
Sir, I respect him as a Prime Minister, but I am perfectly entitled to question him and any political party, including you. You can call me a student, you can say what you want. I have spent 33 years in this profession. When you were still in college, I was doing journalism. Now let me come
I know,
to
but why
yeah,
you have it?
so that's okay. Sir, I will now come to Gaurav Ballabh. Gaurav Ballabh, Rahul Gandhi is now again raising the issue that vaccine should be free for all. If vaccines are free for all, how will you incentivize private manufacturers to buy? At one level, you want more vaccines. There are not enough firm orders, but you say vaccines should be free for all. Why will Pfizer give vaccines free for all? Moderna is not going to give you free for all vaccines.
Rajdeep, from our budget, we had allocated 35,000 crore rupees for vaccination. Nobody is asking question on that. And 2 points I would like to share. That every procurement work on 4 premise: right time, right quantity, right authorization, and right price. On all four premise, our vaccination strategy before 30th of April got big F. F here means fail grade. Now, even if Prime Minister is saying, okay, we are taking U-turn, it's good. I am saying good. But can't he share with the country the blueprint to vaccinate 100% of the population? Like, what are the orders placed for what volumes, like what is the delivery schedule, like what is the daily vaccination target, like deadline to complete vaccination. Every country is having deadline to complete vaccination. China is vaccinating 2 crore people every day. We are vaccinating 25 lakh. Why? We require those answers. आपने जो गलतियां करी छोड़ दिया, चलो साहब आप यू टर्न लेके आ गए, ओके आप यू टर्न लेके भी आ गए. इनके बारे में why Prime Minister in 32 minutes why can't he give a single date that dear देशवासियों 31 दिसंबर तक मेरी गारंटी है मैं आपको निश्चिंत करता हूं why he can't give these dates, why Prime Minister can't say, dear देश, मेरे प्यारे दोस्तों, मेरे मित्रों, मेरे साथियों, मैं आपके 1 करोड़ वैक्सीन रोज लगाऊंगा. Why he can't say like this?
My limited, okay, you, sir, I want to ask you now, Raj Chengappa, because the politics will go on. Has the time come to transparently tell this country 35,000 crore budgeted? Where is the money going? Has the time come to tell us exactly what is the roadmap by which we will achieve the target, as you said, of vaccinating 80 crore to 100 crore Indians by December? I mean, you know, the Prime Minister will give a speech, Rahul Gandhi will tweet. None of it is making the nation any wiser.
You know, Rajdeep, I sincerely believe it's time to end the politics. It's time to act like a nation. There are, and very rightly you call for transparency. It's very important that the people are involved, the state governments are involved, the health ministers or whoever you'd like to call it, just like a GST council, you can form a vaccine council and say, this is the amount of vaccines we're getting, this is the roadmap, these are the priorities, which areas do we need to focus on so that there is no complaint from states that one state is getting more and I'm getting less, the BJP states are getting, you know, much more than the non-BJP states. All that has to end because we have got this huge target that is there.
Right.
And if you see what the government has brought out in terms of the kind of production that the 3 main companies are there, it does give us comfort. The fact is that if Serum Institute is able to beef up the numbers by August and July to the levels that they talked about, and then as well as Bharat Bio, and you've got Sputnik now, you're covering close to 1.3 billion vaccines. That's very important. Now, that has to go on stream, and there will be problems. Let's not forget that. This is not an exact science because there will be problems of biological E, which India is committed to buy, has some problems in terms of the clinical trials. These would be delayed. So that's why I had said earlier that wherever you can get your vaccines, you must get it. Now, you had also talked of the privatization policy that was there, and there was a reply to that. And it is very important that the private sector is involved in this. After all, it was Azim Premji who said that, look, you give the private sector and we'll do it in 3 months. The private sector now also must come forward to prove that they've got 25% of these vaccines. What are they doing about it? You can get companies across. After all, you and I could possibly afford to buy these vaccines, right? Just like we have gas, there's a differential pricing. If you can't, you can go free and get it. And that is very important. That the Prime Minister declared that there should be free vaccines is very important. But I believe that if the private sector has to step forward, companies like Tata, all the big companies should get all their workers vaccinated in a massive drive.
Vaccine does not belong to any political party. Yes, very quickly, 30 seconds, before you accuse me again of rudeness.
Let's not dismiss the work of the private sector, firstly. They have all risen up to the occasion. Yes, they all need to rise up some more, just like our central government needs to. Everybody needs to. But for a fact, I can say, and I don't hold a brief for anybody, but every single corporate house has also ensured and even declared it on their own channels and tweets that they are going to be vaccinating their staff, and not just the staff, even their family members. So let's not dismiss everything just because we want to protect the Prime Minister. The problem is with the vaccine policy and the rollout. Even the 25% vaccination that the private hospitals were given, we were all fighting. There were 28 states, union territories, plus private hospitals.
Ma'am, hopefully we've gone beyond that stage. Hopefully today we've gone beyond that stage of fighting with each other. Yes, Zafar Islam also gets 30 seconds, otherwise he will accuse me of being a student who doesn't listen to the BJP. Go ahead.
And Rajdeep, give my 30 seconds.
Rajdeep,
yes.
Rajdeep, all I'm trying to tell you that the schedule which you are projecting or showing on your screen, I think I would request you to correct it because 133 crore you are showing till December. But actually, the schedule suggests that we have much more than that in terms of the monthly production schedule.
I hope that this roadmap.
I'm correcting you. I'm giving you the schedule.
Okay. I hope that the roadmap is put before the nation. Yes, Gaurav Ballabh, you will also, in case the Congress is accusing me of Twitter of balancing. So you also take your 30 seconds.
Rajdeep, I don't have any accusation to any TV journalist because I am talking to the point that government had done mistake. Even if they are saying, okay, we had committed a mistake, now come out with a blueprint that what date, what quantity, and how you are going to vaccinate the entire country. I would like to end this discussion on a positive note.
Okay, let's hope so. Let's hope so. Transparency, the need of the hour. Thank you all very much for joining us. It's good at least that we perhaps in this country learn the importance of course correcting at times. Thank you all very much for joining me. My take. The reset of the vaccine policy by the Modi government is to be welcomed. It comes just 5 days after the Supreme Court described the centre's policy as arbitrary and irrational. Procurement by the centre and free distribution by the states is the most effective, time-tested policy. But implementation will require an elimination of the gaping trust deficit between the centre and states that has harmed the fight against COVID 2.0. Enough of passing the buck. What we need is accountability at all levels to prevent any further mess-ups. The vaccine belongs to the people of India and not to a political party. So the constant political one-upmanship is avoidable. In the end, what we really need is to procure enough vaccines to vaccinate around 90 lakh people on an average per day to achieve the total vaccination target of a majority of the population by end December. That should now be the sole target. The rest is the noise of a hyper-polarized polity that we don't need in pandemic times. Let's get into mission mode as a country. Promise less, deliver more, be much more transparent and accountable. That should be the mantra of a new India leadership at the centre and indeed in the states. Let's take a break at this point. After nearly 2 months of a lockdown,